So I talked a little bit about if you are going to use birch, that there's an additional step that you're going to have to do as far as getting your dog going, where they're going to need to have a way of indicating to you that they have found the source of scent. We want the dog to, if you think about, imagine a piece of food stuck someplace. As the food sits in that place, the odor from it is going to emanate from it, right? It's going to create this kind of a plume around the food item. And so the longer that food item has been in that spot, the bigger that odor plume can end up being. And so what we want is for the dog to, they're going to notice the scent out here, but what we want is for them to go to the source. So we want them to tell us, okay, the source of the odor is right here. And they're not going to be able to see necessarily the source of the odor. They're going to be using their nose to narrow down to the source. And we want to teach them how to indicate to us when they've reached the source, when they've gotten as close to the source of odor as they possibly can. So I have a quarter here. This is a nice way of beginning to develop your dog's indication. There are various ways that you can develop an indication in your dog. People will teach their dog to down when they're on source, sit when they're on source, bark when they're on source. The indication that I quite like is a freeze. So the dog's nose is as close to the odor source as they can get it, and they have gone still. So they're moving, getting closer and closer and closer to the source, and then when they finally get to where they feel like they can't get any closer, then they pause. And that's I think a nice signal to you. Why I like it better than the down, for example, or the sit, for example, is because depending on the terrain that you're searching on, it may be difficult for the dog to lay down or to sit down. And they may be hesitant to do that if it's wet. They may be hesitant to do that if it's cold. Good down, buddy. Thank you. And the other thing is that, let's say the source is here and your dog is here. If you're using a freeze to indicate, then the dog can come right up to the source and do that. If you've trained them to down or to sit, then that potentially is going to be taking them further away from the source. So that's going to allow a little bit more error in you in figuring out, okay, where exactly is the source at. Less important if you're doing this just for fun, especially since oftentimes it will be you that's hiding the scent, so you're going to know where it's at. But if you decide you want to do any trialing, then you're going to be having to read your dog and figure out, okay, when are they on the source, and then the judge, the person who's determining whether you and your dog have done this correctly, may be saying to you, give me a better idea of where the source of the scent is. So anyway, I just like a freeze indication. So that's what I'm going to show you guys to do. But again, it's really up to you how you want to do this. If you wanted to use a down or a sit as your indication, then you would pair that indication with the source. So like when we were using the scent tube, you would have your dog get in the scent, so have them like their nose inside the indication tube, and then you cue them for a sit. They give you the sit, and then you mark and feed. And you do that multiple times, and the dog begins to offer you that sit. So they smell the source of whatever it is that you're having them search for, and they sit for you. So again, this is all about if you're doing passive searches, if you're searching with something like birch, so an essential oil. Not something that you have to worry about if you're going to focus solely on active searches, where the dog is either getting their mouth on the item, or they're eating the item. And there is, by the way, nothing to say that you can do both. You can absolutely start with an active indication on a catnip toy or on food, and then switch to Birch when you're ready for more of a challenge. That's absolutely okay to do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop the coin on the ground. When Doc's nose is over the top of the coin, I'm going to mark and feed. Actually, I'm not going to mark. I'm just going to feed. I find that not having to worry about marking is easier. You don't always have to mark. And then I'm slowly but sure, and we've done this so he's going to start giving me a little more of a duration. So what I'm going to be looking for is to get a couple seconds of duration where his nose is over the top of the coin before I feed him. I will mention that because I did that retrieve training with Doc, where I taught him to bring me an item, he has a tendency to sometimes try and pick things up like this. So if that becomes an issue, then I'm going to stop, because I don't really want him picking a coin up in his mouth. Okay, so let's see where I want to put this, where he can see. Yes. So again, Doc has done this before, quite a bit actually. So he is, has very quickly started doing what it was that I was looking for when we first started. And I'll put some video up of what it looked like when we first started, because it was, hit and miss, and he was licking at it, and he was knocking it with his feet, and he would, so he was trying lots of different things to try and figure out what it was that I was looking for. Get on the coin, buddy. And you get back on the coin, kid. Yeah, good boy. So he was a little off of the coin, and so that's why I wanted to reset him. Excellent, good boy. Just not on it, kid. Excellent. And I really want to eventually develop that very specific, you're not on the coin, kid, that very specific, where it's his nose right over that coin that's getting him this reinforcer. If I'm not careful, I can teach him. Excellent, good dog. Yeah, good boy. Oh, so good. So I'm getting, 2 or 3 seconds here. Good dog. Nice job, buddy. And the nice thing too is, when I drop the food, it bounces, and so he's moving away from the coin and having to come back to it. So that's another way for me to feel fairly confident that he's looking for the coin, finding the coin, and then indicating on the coin. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to show you is the Kong. And this is new. I have not done this with Doc before, but I really want to be able to use the Kong in searches. My biggest concern is that he potentially is going to mount this, but that was a thing with the coin as well. So I'm using tweezers because I'm trying to be a little more aware of the transfer of my odor onto Kong. If this is just for fun that you're doing this at home, I wouldn't worry too much about the scent, but The thing to remember about your scent, the thing to remember though is that if your scent is always on stuff that you're using your dog, you know, for your dog to search, then it's not going to be clear in your dog's mind. They may be searching for your scent and not for the target scent that you think that they're searching for. Which if you always put your scent on stuff, then maybe that's not a big deal. But if you were to have somebody else hide things for you, which is a good exercise to do, then your dog is going to be lost because they're not going to have that anymore. So it's good when you can to try and be aware of odor, not transferring odor onto things that you don't intend to use your dog to use for searching. Okay, so I'm going to drop this on the ground, and exact same thing that I did before, where when he is over the top of it, I'm going to drop a treat. Yes, good. That was a bad throw. I don't want to mark him for having his mouth on. So I've got to be careful here that I don't frustrate him by not feeding him when he's over the top of it. But I also don't want to end up dropping when he's got his mouth on it, because I don't want him thinking that that's what he's supposed to do. So because we've switched to another item, I'm going to try and get the food to him pretty quickly before he decides to put his mouth on it. So I'm asking for a little bit less from him than I was with the coin. Excellent, buddy. Good boy. Nice job. I wanted him to just drop his head just a little smidge there. Good. Excellent. Good. Nice job, buddy. Good. Good. Oh, so good, buddy. Excellent. So we're kind of doing two things right now. We're working on his indication. Oh, so good, mister. And we're building value that's scent value. So he's being conditioned that the scent of Kong, yes, good boy, excellent, is something to pay attention to. Yeah, excellent, mister. And so I can then in the future begin to, I don't know why I dropped that, that was not great. Good boy. Excellent, mister. Oh, so good. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to now send him away. Okay. There you go. Excellent. Because I want to see if he can find it, if he can come back to it. I want to move this because it's getting a little lost. Doc, go find it, buddy. Over there. Look. Look. There you go. So I'm now just asking him to, excellent, mister, move away from, good boy, nice job, the scent. And you don't want to do this too quickly. Doc, I'm going to start marking him so that he knows that the behavior is done. Drop it a little bit. Yes. Yes. Put his mouth on it. I'm not gonna catch, I wanna not, yes. You don't wanna catch those moments when he puts his mouth on it. Yes. Yes, good. It's over there, look. See it? Good boy. Yes, good dog. Love it when he throws those play bells in there with his indication. Yeah. Yes. Nice, here you go. Okay, I'm going to pick this up now. I want to protect it because I don't want him to be indicating on it and me not be reinforcing him for that. So I'm gonna get it up and out of there. All right. Okay, I want to do a few repetitions with my other dog, Maybelle, just so she gets a little bit of this as well. So give me a minute to go to switch to the dogs. So she has also done the coin indication. She's, again, not quite as developed as Doc, but she was doing it. And then we'll try the Kong, which will be brand new for her as well. So same thing with her, where I'm looking for her to hover over the coin. She has a tendency, good job, Mama, to get stuck like that, where she's not quite, she's paused, but she's not quite over the coin. Excellent. More so than Doc does. So I'm trying to be careful about really asking for her to be above that coin. Good girl. But I also have to be careful with her that I don't try and get greedy and ask for too much, because she can then get kind of stuck doing something else because she thinks, okay, I'm obviously not making the right choice. Excellent, good girl, Mama. It's a good girl. Not quite on it, kid. Excellent, good girl. So when they get kind of stuck where they're not quite over the coin, and I'm wanting them to reset, I just kind of move my feet a little bit. Daddy's home. My significant other is home. You're gonna be too distracted now? Good girl. Not quite on it, kid. Good girl. Nice job. Can you lower your nose? Excellent. Good job. All right. I'm going to pick that coin up, and we're going to try the Kong. Now, she's never seen the Kong, so I don't know what she's going to do with this. I don't expect that she's going to try and pick it up, but it might take her a little bit. We'll just see what happens. Whoops, that was not a good throw. To make sure I got, I'm gonna be very generous about feeding her when her nose is over that, because it's brand new. So I'm not gonna look for any duration. She does have to be over it though. Whoops, that was a freebie, wasn't it, kid? There you go, good girl. Excellent, Mama. Excellent, Mama. So again, she's not only beginning to have the very beginnings of an excellent an indication. Oh, you touched it with your foot. Oh my gosh. Where she's freezing over the source, the odor source, but she's also getting conditioned to that scent. So that scent is becoming important to her because it's getting paired with stuff that she likes. And Maybelle is also a food dog, so she will play with toys, maybe a little bit more than her brother will, but if she had to choose between food and toys, she's going to choose food. So I like to think of, use that as a way of deciding what I'm going to use as a reinforcer. If you've got a dog who is going to choose food over toys, then use food as a reinforcer. If you've got a dog who chooses toys over food, then obviously use toys as a reinforcer. Excellent, good girl. I'm just going to do a couple more of these. I'm going to see what happens if I just wait her out a little bit. Excellent, Mama. And when she gets kind of stuck like that, where she's doesn't really seem to be sure what it is I'm wanting, I'm going to do some, whoops, that was a bad throw. I'm going to do some real low criteria rewards where she just has to be over it for a second before I toss some food down. And then I can go back to looking for a little bit more duration once I've got her back to it. Excellent, Mama, very good. All right, a couple more and then I'm going to remove that. Throwing food everywhere, Tracy. Not quite over it, kid. Excellent, good girl. Good. Okay, next one I'm going to toss it away. Excellent. Boo-boo! Yes, good girl. Oh, I didn't have my tweezers. Oh well. Anyway, hopefully this will give you guys some things to do to play with your dogs at home. Start working on that indication building if you're wanting to either start with Birch or if you think that potentially you might eventually want to go to Birch. The coin game and the Kong, if you want to use the Kong. And the Kong can be used for a search item as well. Oh, I didn't show you, well, I'll do that there was something else I was going to show you, but it's time for dinner for these guys, so I'm going to quit for now, and I will post later another video where I start pairing the search term, what we're going to tell what we're going to say to our dogs to let them know that there is something for them to find. All right, guys. Thanks. See you later.